This was built back in 1908 by E.H. Harriman. He was the Union Pacific Railroad magnate, and he combined several of the competing trolley companies in Salt Lake under one roof and built what he conceived to be a rather model transit system for a city of this size at that time, right after the turn of the century. When I first proposed my idea for redeveloping it, I didn't get too much enthusiastic support. The bankers at the beginning couldn't see the image of what was going to be done here, and certainly neither could any prospective tenants. So the procedure I used was simply to go ahead and do it, revealing what is essentially a very attractive building done in kind of the mission-style architecture.
There isn't a straight wall in it anywhere. We've built crooked walls purposely to match the crooked walls that are here. If you could have seen it when we first started it, you wouldn't believe it. What can be done with the old buildings is fantastic if a person is willing to open their imagination, which you have to completely open. I'm sure that to move on to a new job from this one will be a letdown, because realistically there's no challenge to a new building. Pick up the blueprints and build it. It's kind of like getting up in the morning and eating your breakfast. But this thing is a whole new ballgame. But everybody that's worked on a square has shown pride. Most of my men that's with me right now have been here since day one. They wouldn't leave it for anything until it's complete.
The First Security Bank here in Salt Lake did finance this, and it really was amazing. But bankers are conservative. When they see the trend, then they follow the trend. And what's done last week by somebody else successfully, then they'll do this week. So as each project is built, that helps the next guy along because there's a track record, and they'll have an easier chance of getting some money for it. I wouldn't say that it's easy right now, but I'd say that it's a lot easier because of the projects that have been built. I think it's going to get a lot easier in the future because it makes a lot of sense. Why should we throw away a resource that still has some useful life into it? If you sit down and think about it, it just makes a lot of sense.
I myself am looking now at a possibility of doing a train depot. Just about every city has a train depot that's not being utilized or not being utilized very intensively at the moment. And I think this is a good example of how those can be put to work. They're normally located near a center of transportation in the heart of a city, and they got just about everything going for them except a good use. The revitalization of our cities should be one of our highest social goals. The fact that these industrial centers, particularly the railroad stations, are in the city centers in most cases or near the city centers. If you can get a big enough project so it has what my architect likes to term critical mass, that's a physicist term, but that's the size to make something happen so that it influences its surroundings far more than the surroundings influence it. And I think we can look around Trolley Square here and see the tremendous revitalization that's occurred in what was an area that was really sliding downhill rather rapidly as a residential area.
I think you're probably 3/4 of the way home when you start with an old building that's got a lot of what we call guts to it, you know. There's a basic human response there, and if you're careful and you don't foul it up, why, you know, you're home free with some imagination and some effort. We like to say in architecture that form follows function, and this has been the paradox that I've found, is that converting buildings that were designed for a totally different function serve the new function better, look better, have more of a humane quality. And this industrial building has a more humane quality than most of the buildings designed directly for human beings. And that's a curious thing, something worth pondering about.